Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my full review on BMW's facelifted 530d xDrive Touring. I've had this car for almost 10 days now and done about 1,000 miles in it, so I know it very, very well. Before we start, as always, I just want to say a massive shout out and thanks to all of you guys and girls for supporting the channel, especially this year. It's been a tough year for everyone. My business has gone down the drain, but YouTube has really picked up, and if it wasn't for the likes of you lot watching, I don't know where I'd be right now. I'd be in a much worse position, that's for sure. So really, really massive appreciation and thanks to everyone who has watched the channel, supported me with Control and Shift. Got a new t-shirt on today, 6'4", in case you didn't know that I was 6'4". I think I might mention that in a few of my videos. For those of you regulars that are watching, you might find that amusing. But anyway, thank you, and thank you again. Really, really appreciate it. And as I say, couldn't have done this without you guys and girls. It's actually quite fitting being in a 5 Series BMW press car, because my first ever press launch was almost 4 years ago when I went out to the south of Spain with BMW UK, and it was for the then new G30 5 Series, so the pre-facelift version of this car. And in fact, the car that I was given out there to test and review was a 530d xDrive. It wasn't a touring, but it was a saloon and fully loaded, beautiful car. And yeah, I remember at the time feeling so fortunate to be on the trip with BMW UK and in the south of Spain, staying at a beautiful hotel. But I just remember being quite blown away by the fact that I was actually on a press trip and I'd been invited by a manufacturer, albeit BMW, who I know I've done a fair amount of let's say promotion for over the years, but still it just felt amazing. And fast forward almost 4 years and here we are in the facelifted version of almost that exact same car. This is actually the 7th generation of BMW's iconic 5 Series. They've actually produced the 5 for almost 50 years now. I think it was 1972 were the first production cars. That's before I was born, so a long time. And over those years, yes, it's grown, but it's always been a really good mid to large size family executive saloon or touring in the later years. And I've certainly always had a soft spot for the 5 Series. I absolutely love them over the years, and this one is no different. The LCI updates, just like the rest of the cars in the range, so the M550i that I tested recently and the M5 competition that I tested recently, very similar on this car. So we have updated or remolded, redesigned front and rear bumpers. We've got new headlamp units up front and new rear tail lights as well. And then when you step inside the car, I mean, the main changes really are this massive 12.3 inch infotainment screen that we now get BMW's brilliant operating system 7. And as talked about in my recent M5 competition video, it's just great to see that the rest of it is very similar. There's a couple of slightly different redesigned buttons down here, but otherwise everything's very familiar to me. Most importantly, the iDrive controller is down there, and in my opinion, the iDrive controller and the operating system 7 infotainment system is hands down the best on the market. This being the 530d, or it has the iconic B57 3-litre inline-6 turbo diesel engine. In my opinion, one of the best engines that BMW has ever produced. I actually have one in my 7 Series and I do rave on about it a lot, and I think people that write off diesels have never experienced an inline-6 BMW diesel, because they are just unbelievable, especially in heavier cars like this. Well, this is circa 2 tons. it's all that torque just throws it down the road without any fuss, and also it doesn't sound like a diesel. It's really quiet when you want it to be quiet, and when you are hammering, it sounds more like a sort of low revving V8 than a typical diesel. I absolutely love it. And in this particular LCI car, it's actually updated, so it has the new mild hybrid system, or 48 volt hybrid system from BMW, which I've already raved about in cars like the M440i, and in fact the M340D Touring that I tested recently. You can certainly feel it. It helps with things like start stop. In fact, we'll come to a stop here and it would just shut out completely, start up again. It's just so seamless, really is. I think it works so well. And in fact, what I hadn't noticed in other cars that I've tested, other BMWs that I tested recently, is there is no way of turning the start stop off when you're in comfort, but when you're in sports it doesn't intervene. So I think that's quite a good compromise. Obviously that's to help with emissions and stuff, but I don't find myself reaching down here to turn it off in comfort because it's so unintrusive. It now has an output of 286 horsepower and a torque output of 650 newton meters, which is always the important figure, especially for bigger and heavier cars. 650 newton meters, that's a lot of torque. In fact, that's only 100 newton meters down on the M5 competition, which is just crazy, and that's what you feel in this car. And as a result of that, performance figures are also through the roof. Let's just remember, this is a 5 Series Touring, 2 tons, and we're talking about a diesel engine, 3 litre. You wouldn't expect it to be too fast, but this actually does the 0 to 62 sprint claimed in 5.6 seconds. It's just crazy, and has a limited top speed of 155 miles an hour. I think we should actually go and test that claimed 0 to 62 figure now and see what we can achieve, because as with most BMWs, their claim figures are always very conservative. Okay, here we go. Launch control in the brand new 530D xDrive Touring. Racebox is ready. I'm in sports automatic and sports. I've also got all of the traction aids turned off. Left foot hard down the brake, right foot on the accelerator. Launch control active. Here we go. Oh my God! 5.27 seconds. I'm sure you agree that was massively, massively impressive. We're talking about a fairly ordinary diesel 5 Series BMW. This isn't claiming to be a rocket ship, but yet it's doing the 0 to 62 sprint in almost 5 seconds flat, which is just crazy. This world, I know cars are getting bigger and I know they're getting heavier and we're all complaining about that, but there is no denying that that is ridiculously fast. And I think what makes it far more impressive than that, and the one thing we haven't talked about yet, and the reason that you would want a B57 diesel over, let's say, the 540i with the brilliant B58 petrol engine, is efficiency. Now, BMW claim between 45 and 48 mpg depending on the wheel size you have on the car. The bigger the wheels, the less efficient it is, and this one's got the very biggest optional 20s on it. So I think they claim 45 for this particular car and setup. I've had this car, as I say, for about 9 days now, and I've averaged 42.8 averaged, and that's a mixture between long journeys, spirited drives, in town, everything. But on a long motorway journey, I've seen as high as 50 miles to the gallon on the average, sitting at 70 miles an hour on the motorway. 50 miles to the gallon. That gives this car a theoretical range of around 700 miles on one tank. Can a Tesla do that? Let's just talk about its handling now. For such a big car, it seems to handle exceptionally well, and with that xDrive system, it just rockets you out of even slow corners like that have bumps in them. It's amazing that this car can lay down all 650 Newton meters of its torque just without any issues whatsoever. The pickup is unbelievable, and what I'm feeling in that pickup is more than just the B57. We've talked about it already. It's the mild hybrid system. I'm in 5th gear now, put my foot on the floor, and it's instantaneous. I mean, the pull is just 60 miles an hour, like just easy peasy. It's such a nice, easy, relaxing engine and gearbox combination. Whether you're in comfort and drive and let the software do all of the changing, it works so well, or whether you're in the manual mode and in sports, it's just fantastic. Now, in terms of composure, you can feel the weight. This is a heavy car, and I think because it's a touring, the weight tends to be a little bit higher, the centre of gravity, than, let's say, its saloon counterpart. But I think most of you would still be very impressed by the way this car handles for such a big, let's call it, bus, because it really is. Unfortunately, this isn't the complete package I was hoping it was going to be. There's one thing that lets it down massively, and that is ride quality. Even when you knock it back into comfort with its adaptive suspension, it just never really settles down. It never gives you that ride quality that you're hoping for. The last car I actually drove along this very stretch of road was the very latest Audi RS6 on 22-inch wheels. So 2-inch bigger wheels than this car's got. And the ride quality in the RS6 in comfort was miles better than this particular car. And I think that's a big disappointment, because the one thing you're going to expect from your fairly average 5 Series, you know, middle of the road 530D, is a good ride quality, and that just isn't the case. There's 2 reasons for that. One, this car has got the optional 20-inch wheels, which arguably maybe improve its looks, but I would always have smaller wheels in return for better ride comfort and therefore better handling. And the second reason is this has got P0s on it, and I know I bang on about tyres a lot, and I know you guys and girls are going to know what's coming next, but if this did have, let's say, 19-inch wheels on it with a set of Michelin PS4Ss, I can tell you, I can guarantee that the ride quality would be 15 to 20% better, especially in comfort, and therefore handling, etc., will also be improved, because it'll be less likely to skip across the surface of the road. And that's what this car really feels like it's doing, especially when you're in sports and the suspension's stiffened up and stuff. But you never go into that. In my sports individual, I have the suspension set to comfort, because comfort is already stiff enough and too stiff, as we talk about. So that's its really biggest downfall. And the one thing that I was really hoping for on this car is good ride quality when you knock everything back, because it's not an M550i, it's not a M5 competition. In fact, talking the M5 competition, yes, it is a little bit better than the ride in that car, but it's not massively better, and I just don't understand why. Go for 19-inch wheels, and when you do come to replacing the tyres, because I'm pretty sure that BMW would put P0s or Bridgestones on the car, although I have seen a few 530Ds with Michelins on them, so it's just luck of the draw, it really is. And it's not down to your individual retailer, so don't go having an argument with your salesman or woman over the fact that your car has come with P0s, because that's totally out of the dealership's control. That just is how Germany allocate cars to the UK. But yeah, down the track, throw these horrible tyres in the bin and stick some decent Michelins on there. Let's finish with comparing this car to other BMWs in the current lineup. The retail of this 530D xDrive Touring M Performance package, whatever it's called, is about £57,000 on the road. This particular car has got about 10 grand's worth of options, which is fairly typical for press cars. Things like the glorious panoramic sunroof, which I definitely would pick. Other things like the 20-inch wheels, which we talked about, that I wouldn't pick. but we're talking about a £57,000 car on the road. Now that puts it right in the firing line of the M340D Touring that I tested recently. I think that's about 54 grand on the road. Very similar sort of spec. That might even have a slightly better spec, but don't quote me on that. So give or take £3,000 or £4,000 difference. I have to say, unless you need the space, and this has got space, oh yeah, I mean there's lots of space, you know, especially in the rear. There's more space than there is in a 3 Series. The boot as well obviously is bigger. I think the 3 Series cabin is better than the 5 Series cabin. It is a completely new cabin, and in many ways it feels a bit more modern than this. Functionally this works fantastically, but the 3 Series cabin is just a slight step up above. Maybe not in materials, and it's no better fit and finish, but in terms of the actual tech and the way it's all laid out, it is slightly better than it is in here. So better cabin, less space, but most importantly for me, it just performs better. It feels better when you're pushing on, and when you knock it back into comfort, and the M340D comes with adaptive suspension as standard, it just feels better. It's got a better ride quality, and I can't believe I'm saying that a sportier 3 Series has got a better ride quality than a fairly normal 5 Series. The last thing I want to talk about is BMW's personal assistant, which is essentially their voice control. Now there's some new commands on there that I didn't know about, and I actually watched a Love Cars video recently on the M440i, and Paul demonstrated one of the features which I have to show you guys. So watch this. Hey BMW, open my window. Hey BMW, close my window.
Sure, I will close the driver's window.
The most pointless command, I'm sure you agree. What's wrong with the button down there that we've used for years? But anyway, and there are other ones. Hey BMW, use the ejector seat. Wait for a really bad joke. Here we go.
Launching mode in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just kidding.
I mean, maybe that's German sense of humour, I don't know. It makes me laugh because it's so bad. But anyway, it's a feature that's fitted to this car. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this review and video. I've certainly enjoyed my 10 days with this car, aside from the negatives, which are the ride comfort, but put some 19s on it, forget about the big 20s. They might look better to some of you, not necessarily to me, but they definitely ruin the ride and handling of this car for the UK. I'm sure they're brilliant in Germany and in other places where road surfaces are much better than ours, but over here, stick with the 18s or 19s, no bigger, no need. Thanks a lot for watching. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and leave any comments and questions below, and I'll see you at the next one very soon. Cheers.